Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. So I just wanted to give an update today. I'm officially out of Prime Inc. I've sent an email to my fleet manager, which is a pretty great guy. He was a truck driver himself, and I think that was one of the issues why, well, not issue really. I think he was a great manager because he really understood truck drivers. I feel like that's what Prime needs. They need to hire fleet managers that have been truck drivers. Especially my fleet manager. I'm gonna say his name, not his last name, but his name was Travis, and he was very understandable guy. He really looked out for you, and he did like everything in his power to make sure that you got good loads, you got good revenue, and stuff like that. And especially home time. When it came to home time, he really was great at it. So shout out to my fleet manager Travis. If you're listening to this, I really appreciate everything you did for me, and that's why I decided to leave. A letter to him. Well, I sent him an email saying that I'm very thankful that he was my fleet manager, and everything really good with him and Prime in general. I think Prime did a great job. Even though I do feel like, for example, when I started Prime almost like 4 years ago to now, it has changed a little bit. They're still really good when it comes to, for example, paying you on time, making sure that you get miles, and then also making sure that you drive safely. And for example, when you break down, they're really good at like getting you back up. So that didn't change. What I would say it did change was the culture of the company. I mean, I was only there for almost 4 years, so I haven't been there as long as many other drivers. But it seems like they're becoming more like a big corporation. I think they're like losing their essence in a way. I think one of the first things that I noticed about losing their essence was with the cameras. I really didn't like the cameras at all because I think they just like, for me they made me feel uncomfortable. Because it just feels like you're being watched 24/7. And I know we have the phones and this and that, the TVs now, smart TVs, they can listen to you and everything. But I just don't like it because you're driving. So you're and I understand where they come from with the cameras to make sure that you're like a better driver, and it does work in a way, but at the same time it takes a lot of your privacy. And I feel like they don't trust you as a driver. And I mean, it makes sense from a business perspective. uh, but before that, before the cameras, everything was really cool, and a lot of bureaucracy too. I would say, like, for example, taking the pictures of the bill of lading before, after. It's too much. It's like it feels like an office job now instead of being like a normal truck driving job. And I think it's good, for example, that they have systems in place to eliminate as much of claims as possible. But I think they should be able to trust you, as a driver too, especially if you've been there for a long time. So, for example, if you've been there for like more than 3 years, you have really good safety scores and like everything good. Like, they should make the camera optional. Same with the bill of ladings. It's just like, because it happened many times to me, when I was like, waiting for when I would call to make sure that my bill of lading was scanned and go over the temperature and everything. It would just take forever to, like, being on the phone there and like having traffic behind me. And they like, that's my major concern with the company. I feel like they should hire truck drivers and make them fleet managers, right? Because a lot of those guys already have a lot of experience. They know what's going on, and they also know, for example, if the truck driver might be lying. So I think that's what they should do. They should hire a lot of the people working those type of jobs, fleet managers, people answering the phone calls, like truck drivers, because they have a lot of people there to hire from, So I think that would make the company culture better, in my opinion. And I have seen like a lot of, I didn't like, I'm not gonna say names, but for example, I'm gonna say that I didn't like a lot of the comments that were being said during the Prime live meetings on Fridays. I thought they were like a little bit disrespectful to the drivers. I'm not gonna say again who was saying those things and what they were saying, because if you watch I watched a lot of the Prime meetings on Fridays, and I just felt like there was like a little bit of an ego issue with the people directing those type of meetings. And I think they probably have like good intentions. They probably mean well, and they do a great job. But I just feel like they were like a little bit too much, in my opinion, to a little bit disrespectful to the truck drivers, maybe. And to and yeah, that's all I have to say. So I'm officially out of Prime Inc. I'm still recommending it as a great startup company. But like they said to you, there you can always do better. So they can always do better, because those things need to be worked out. And I think, like for example, if you're like a beginner driver, I think that's like probably the best company to go with. My experience was amazing, and it also depends on the person that trains you. But I don't know if it is a company now to stay there for long term. In my opinion, I had to leave because I have like some health issues with my back that I developed. But so that's why I'm leaving the trucking industry in general. But I think I don't think I would have stayed maybe if for like longer term. Just because they need to do better in my opinion. So that's the video for today, guys. Thank you. Bye bye.